Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be with you guys today. And I want to thank you for having me today. And um, wow, it's great to be with you. I was listening to everybody's story. We all got a story in the big woods, in the big, uh, great conversation going on, sober sobriety. I'm at my sober date is April 21st, 1988. I, we met somewhere out in that beautiful town in Long Island. Frankie Barker was a good friend, is a good friend of mine. I spoke to him recently. Uh, Meet his parents, and I love my life today. I'm intimate. I'm going through a period where I'm struggling with a little bit of codependency with a couple of guys that normally I wouldn't have in my life. But someone helped build a kitchen, we got a brand new kitchen put in, and a friend of mine, a guy showed up from Pennsylvania. He played halfback, a fullback for the Pittsburgh Penn State, and he blew his knee out, so he ended up in Joe Frazier's gym. And he was a construction guy. He fell 30 feet. Thank God he landed on a box first, hit the ground, got brain injury, broke his jaw, ends up in Scotch Plains where his daughter lives, comes to Mass. I'm at Mass, and he says, I must be dead. He says, that's Gerry Cooney. Isn't he dead? I said, no, no. And so we became friends, right? And uh, so these guys, they're great guys. I befriended them. They helped me out. I have compassion today. I helped the guy out. But when compassion turns into codependency, this one guy with the broken jaw and the brain injury, he's coming to my house every day. He wants to be here I meet him at Mass in the morning and leaves, comes here 2:30, 3 o'clock. And so I'm alone. I mean, I'm a busy guy. I was a professional athlete. So I'm always on the run. I'm always on the move. And I don't want to entertain people all the time. And the other guy is a big builder, big tough guy. He's a mobster. He's a plumber, a great guy. I love him. And same thing. He doesn't he cannot become intimate. So he picks these, women that are dysfunctional. And it's always going to end in mud, right? And so, and I'm just starting to find out that I can't keep trying to make him understand that he has to do the work first. He's got to go to codependence, do therapy, read books, so he can attract somebody that he's attracted to, who's attractive on the inside. And that was my experience. I stayed alone for a year. I was bounced around early sobriety for 3 or 4 years, filling the hole with women and gonna make it right, and this one's gonna be right. And nobody, they look good, they smell good, they dress good. But when the dust settled, they were crazy because I was crazy. I was attracting crazy. So I had to grow up. And I hid behind all those things in life: sexting, traveling, drugging, drinking, spending, you name it. I had every defect of character. To go back quickly, so here I am. I grew up in an alcoholic family, a lot of abuse, a lot of neglect. I hid in the basement most of my life early on until I left at 17. And I, the guy I hated so much, I became him. When I was 12, I picked up a bottle of Boone's Farm apple wine. And I never drank before, but I never felt comfortable with myself. I mean, wasn't smart enough, wasn't handsome enough, didn't have the right clothes, didn't know what to say. But when I picked up the bottle of Boone's Farm apple wine at 12 and drank it down and got so sick that night, crawled around the backyard at this party, listening to people say, look at that kid. Somehow I made it home. And when I woke up the next day, I forgot all about that part, how sick I got and how uh, how am I going to get home? All that stuff we go through when we first get that, drunk and so drunk and somehow I made it home. And the next morning when I woke up, I didn't have a hangover. I forgot all about that part about being so sick and terrible. I remembered the 20 minutes when I looked good, I was attractive, I was funny, I could talk to the girls. people liked me, and that's the part I held on to. And I have 3 children, and I prayed to God, you know, please don't let them go through the process of that first time I drank and how it filled the hole. And for that 15 to 20 minutes, when it filled up that big hole I have been carrying around in my chest, please don't give them that. And thank God it hasn't. And I was 12 years old. I drank. I got the girls to pass me. I got, I got the teachers to like me. I did everything. I went from first base to home plate without going to second, without struggling to second, without struggling to third base. I found how to the shortcuts. I found how to get by, and I thought, wow, look at me. The girls doing my homework. I'm passing my grades. I don't got to show up. And when I got sober, what I really realized is that the real life experience is struggling to get to second base, to struggle to fight and to get to third base before I came home. That was a great experience for me that I learned in Alcoholics Anonymous. And listen, I have codependency, I got AA, I got dysfunction. I'm 36 and a half years sober today. I go to Al-Anon for my codependency. I go to AA a couple of times a day if I can, with Zoom around, to work and think about my program and my life. And I have a great wife that I spent a year alone in sobriety at 4 years, and went to Africa and Central America and did all these different things. And like 12 months into that, this guy calls me from AA and puts me on the phone with this girl. And we had a nice conversation. And I was living in Florida in the winter. I said, when I come back to New York, we'll go have lunch. So about 3 months later, I come home, we go out to have lunch. We walk down the street holding hands. But I was in recovery. I was going to therapy. I was addressing my issues. I was addressing who I was, my fall and my failings, my anger, my fears, my loneliness. And it was at a time when I met this woman who was great. And we've been married now for 30 years. We have 2 children together. I have a third child who's 36. See, when his mother got pregnant, I got a little scared and I quit drinking 36 years because I thought, wow, this is scary. I don't want to ever give my children what my father put on to me. I left the home at 17. I was angry. I, worked as a construction guy, worked for a gas station. And I was so angry. Boxing was my oldest brother was a boxer. I loved him. He left the house when he was 15. I went to the gym. I started boxing and, hit the heavy bag and felt good. It was expressing my anger. I felt self-esteem. I felt all these good things. I did have a lot of fear in there, but I hit it out, right? And the time I felt the fear was the day of the fight. Like I gotta fight this guy. And in boxing, the whole week, all you do is realize, oh shit, man, I gotta fight this big, tough ass guy who wants to knock my socks off. And I'm training my ass off. I'm smoking cigarettes, I'm drinking, I'm playing. But at 16, I'm 6'4", 160 pounds. I go into the Golden Gloves and I knock out. I have 7 fights. I have 5 knockouts. I win the middleweight championship. My brother made it to the finals too, but he lost in the finals. He left the country. He went cross country and got involved with himself in boxing. They put my picture in the paper. I felt good winning and standing up, and it made me feel like something I had never felt before. And after every fight I remember back then, I would drink. We'd go out to these romantic places like the Rat Hole and all these places that we drink our beers and get loaded and go to parties and have trouble and so I'm fighting for years. I'm training myself pretty good. I'm not really abusing myself. I'm 18 years old. I'm ranked. I'm I win the heavyweight championship in the New York State Golden Gloves. I get invited to fight on the United States team. I go to Europe. I have 4 fights, 4 knockouts. I knock everybody out, and I remember hitting this guy one time in my second fight in Scotland. I hit him with the best left hook I ever threw, and he just looked at me. I said, "Oh shit, I'm in trouble now." And the next round, I came out, hit him with some body shots and knocked him out. I win all 4 fights. I come home. The president of the Olympic Committee calls me, tells me the Russian is sending an all heavyweight team. Did I want to fight on that card? I said, well, sure, I'd love to do that. But it was summertime. I'm drinking every day, right? 6 days before the fight, I get the phone call from Colonel Hull. He said, listen, the Russian team is coming. You got the third-ranked Russian heavyweight champ. Do I want to fight? I said, sure. So I drank Perrier water, had Brussels sprouts. I ran 6 miles every day, and I went into garden. I love the garden, Madison Square Garden. I don't know if you guys have been there, but it's a beautiful place. 20,000 people. For this guy who grew up in this little basement, hid out, and it was a great experience for me to stretch out, to feel self-esteem. Today, as a matter of fact, I go to an orphanage or at-risk kids home, and I teach them boxing. And through boxing, I build self-esteem, courage, confidence, all the things that it gave me that I'm able to pass on. And what a great feeling for me, because I still feel like that little kid sometimes. And when I see these kids smiling and joking and can throw a great jab, it kind of hits inside of me too. So I tell the guy, no, he called me. So I go into the fight, knock the guy out in the first round. In boxing, when you're fighting, you want to hit the guy with a good shot, let him know what you got. So if he wants to come in my house, he's what he's going to get, right? I hit him with a left hook. I knocked him out cold. He was ranked third as a Russian heavyweight champion. He was like 6'6". He had about 400 fights. Next day, I get a phone call. I made it to the finals of the Olympic trials in 1976. He says, we go to Colorado Springs. We get the top 8 guys. We fight it out. And the 2 top guys go to the Olympics. Do you want to go? I say, nah, I can't make it. I can't make it. He said, Gerry, this is the finals of the Olympic trials. I said, my father's very sick. I hated my father, but I had no self-esteem, no courage, no confidence. Why am I going to go make an ass of myself out? This guy asked me 3 times, and as he was hanging up, he asked me again. I said, I can't make it. He hung up the phone. So I really regret that moment. That's one of the worst moments in my life. I watched the Olympics, never went there. Maybe I could have made it. Maybe I couldn't have. And so second worst day in my life is May 11th, 1981. I'm ranked number 1 in the world as a heavyweight prize fighter. I knock almost everybody out I'm fighting. I'm going through sparring partners like it's, when you're a fighter, you go and run in the morning, you do stomach, you eat, you go back and sleep, and in the afternoon you get up and you go to the gym, and there's like 5 or 6 of these big tough guys looking to kick your ass every day, right? And I got to stay ahead of them because, because while I'm fighting one, there's 5 other guys watching me, and I got to keep fighting. That's how you get better, right? So I'm fighting Kenny Norton. I'm in the garden. I'm the roar of the crowd. I'm shaking, right? And when you're in the locker room, you're nervous and you're thinking about this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. And then someone knocks on the door and says, "Hey, Cooney, you're next." And that's when the shit hits the pan, right? What? Oh no! And you walk down this empty corridor. It's about 200 yards. My hands on my trainer's shoulders. And then you open the door and you can hear the roar of the crowd. And that's when the magic happens. That's when I become magical. When I figure out the fight, I know what I'm going to do, what I got to do, how I got to do it. And you get in the ring. All you care about is you're waiting for the bell to ring. I'm fighting Kenny Norton, a big, tough ass guy. And I'm sorry for my profanity. I'm not really bad, but I'm a little bad. And I get into the ring, I look at him, and I'm thinking, oh man, when am I get myself in here? But the bell rings, I hit him with a right hand to the body, he buckles. So when you're fighting, you spin him into the corner, you say, well, let me take 30 seconds to open up on this guy. and I spin him into the corner, and 54 seconds into the first round, the referee finally stops the fight. He could have stopped it in 40 seconds. He was laying on the rope going, I was battering him back and forth, and they stopped the fight. So that's the night when I come alive. I'm going to get a shot at the heavyweight championship of the world. You think I would say, well, I better find a good trainer, a nutrition coach, a nutritionist. That's what I was supposed to do, but I didn't. The moment got so big. I had a high school girlfriend who was a Wilhelmina model that I went back with. She had a bag of dry goods, and I had a bottle of scotch. And that night I stayed up all night and drank and did those dry goods. And that's what happens to us. And that's what goes on to us in the big city, is that the moment becomes too big and I shut down and I want to cover up and I want to, and what happened to me growing up was I learned I'm no good, you're a failure, you're not going to amount to anything. So what I was always trying to do is to prove my father was wrong. And then at that moment, there was nothing to do but to sabotage myself. And 13 months later, I fight Larry Holmes in Las Vegas in the biggest heavyweight fight in the history of boxing. And I get stopped in the 13th round. I don't win. I was 25-0 going into that fight. And I learned a lot of things that, if I change the antifreeze in the car, if I change the oil, if I check the tires, my car's going to run good for a long time. But if I'm drinking and drugging and smoking cigarettes and not sleeping when I'm supposed to be doing. But at the time, it was my only thing I could do. I think the moment was so big that I hid. I didn't want to feel. And I think that's the problem with all of us. Tell me, when I first came around these rooms, I got to put on paper what my faults are. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to feel that pain. I don't want to look at that defects of character, the loss, the emptiness, the failure. And so, unfortunately, I get stopped by Larry Holmes in the 13th round. Now, we have a great fight. I think in today's times, we would have had a second fight. And I think what I learned in that first fight could have really helped me in the second fight. Today, they would have had a rematch. So I disappear again. I move out to this beautiful home I have in the Hamptons, and drinking. And that was 1982, that fight. And in 88, I woke up one day, hungover. It was 20 minutes to 11. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, what happened to you? You got to be kidding me. Like those years slipped by. I would take a fight once in a while, but I was never really the same anymore. I was never had that magic. There's a magic you get when you're world class. You can create the opening. You can you can make it happen. And if you don't change the oil, fill up the tires, you don't got that split second timing anymore. It goes away. And that's what happens. And the desire went away from me. It was like there was so much racism, and it was just a very ugly thing, so anyway, I disappear, I go away, come back, go back, take this, take that. You got these managers, they want to make money off you, so they keep trying to pull you back in. And after so long, I'd have to, if not taking care of myself, I'd go back to the gym and somewhat get in shape, and I was still capable of knocking these guys out. And then I woke up one day, 20 minutes to 11, hungover, lost in my life by myself in this beautiful home on the beach with everything you could imagine. And I'm saying, what happened? What in the hell happened to you, bro? What? And I got scared that day. I really got scared. And I put it down. I got to quit. Stop drinking. And I put it down, went about my day. Woke up the next morning, guess what? It was 20 minutes to 11. I was hungover. I was lost. And I got scared that day. I got really scared. And I said, God, please, God, you got to help me. You got to help me, God. And the desire to drink went away. that moment. I remember turning on the television on the channel that was on. It happened to be Alcohol Awareness. And this guy, George Benedict, who runs and owns the Seafield Center and other places around the country, was on talking about these stories about alcoholics and what they go through. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I call that guy 288-1122. I'll never forget that number. And I get him on the phone. And I said, George, listen, I don't want anybody to know they have a problem. Everybody knew we were drinking and slobs and not taking care of ourselves, not showing up, not being the man I am today, not being available, not being intimate, not having joy and love. And everybody knew that about me. And so I'm sober, and I'm driving to my office, and I stop at this pancake house that we used to cut out of school when we were kids and go to the pancake house. And I stopped off the road and went to the pancake house, and Jack Burnett, New York, was there. And Jack Burnett, on his last run, he was up for 9 days in a row. A guy came home and gave him a machine gun and said, come on, we got to go get this guy. And he said all he did was pray all the way there. Please, God, don't let that guy be here. And the guy wasn't there. We got sober. So I walk into the pancake house. He's sitting at the first table. I say, Gerry, sit down. I want to talk to you for a minute. I loved the guy. He was a bodyguard of mine when I was in my fight day, when there was all that racist shit going on that I couldn't really deal with. There were these guys trying to make money off us through racism. And that's been thank God that's. Then I found out that my grandfather's mother was African American. It was all a lie. They used to call me the White Hope. And then I realized my grandfather on my mother's side was African American. And so he tells me, today I'm celebrating 3 years. I have not had a drink or a drug in 3 years, he said to me. And he said, you never have to drink again. And I thought, Jack, that's great, but that does not going to work. That does not going to work for me. He said, you got to pray for a sponsor. I said, that doesn't work. So I left him, and he used to take me to this detox on the island. And I remember there's 80 disheveled men in this room. And he told them, he said, listen to me. He said, most of you are not going to make it by this time next year. And I thought, my God, why would you say that to these guys? They got no shoes, no pants. They got a pot to piss in. So after the meeting, I asked him, and he told me, he said, because it's the truth. And that was so amazing to me. And I thought at that moment, that seat right there is mine, right? And so I want to just go back a little bit on my last run. So I wake up with this beautiful girl, and she takes me I was depressed. You know how we get depressed after what we did it again. Oh my God, I did it again. She takes me to the beach, and she makes me a sandcastle. And it was like one of the most amazing things anybody ever done to me. And then shortly after that period, I went back and saw that guy, and I got a sponsor. I used to have to travel 90 miles from where I live to the city once a week, and we'd go through the step. And I worked through the steps, which is so important. But I was the guy that when my first meeting, I read the 12 steps on the wall. I thought, I got that. Yeah, I got that. And then I realized how much work it takes to look inside myself and to bring that pain out. And I went to I didn't go to rehab. I went to meetings, but I used to go to Cora Maria. They used to be like, you put on this weekend, and priests would come in and talk, and you work on meetings. And I learned a lot about myself. I worked through the steps, and I heard the first meeting I went to, I heard somebody say, can you help me? Can you help me? And I thought, wow, you can say that here? And I've been asking that question ever since. And, I've had a lot of love put in my life. I have a lot of, and always because I did the work. I do the work. I'm 36 and a half years sober. I do have a reading group that I read. Today I'm on a book. Just can't tell you. Through the pandemic, we've read 4 or 5 days a week, different books. I must have read 50, 60 books about my disease, Al-Anon, codependency, dysfunction, all those things that keep me putting my foot back in the water, slip up again. And I went through the 12 steps. That fire, that sponsor, I loved him. I fired him because he was asking me for money and can I stay at your house and can I use your house this weekend? And so I don't know if I set him up for that or he just did it because we are not the healthiest group on the bus, right? And so I fired him. I stayed alone for a while, and then I met this guy through the pandemic who was really taught me about reading, about deep things in me that I can share with newcomers, that I can read through with guys that have never been there before, who can grow, like those kids that I go to see on the weekend, where I teach them boxing. And the thing about self-esteem and courage and confidence is that you don't have to fight anymore. You don't have to shoot guns anymore. You don't have to do those things. Make a plan. That's what we learned in AA. That's what I learned here. I'm reading this book, and it talks about how God has helped us to come closer to Bill Wilson, to look at the steps, to find out the flaws and the mistakes that we were given. Not even my fault. But I want to blame myself all the time. I wanted to hate my father and blame myself. And I went to my father's grave and I forgave him and I asked for his forgiveness. And I traveled the country and I met with people and made amends and cleaned up my act. And with my sponsor's knowledge. So he'd go over the amends with me and, listen, I made mistakes. Some people accepted them. 99% of was accepted. Sometimes they don't get accepted. But if I work this program half-assed, you know what I'm going to get? Yeah, you say it. Half-assed. I'm going to get half-assed. If I want to work at 70%, I'm going to get 70%. It's not good enough for me. And I learned that in this program. And I keep trying to tell people. I used to go into prisons and I would speak the story. And they asked the warden one time, I said, I wonder, do I ever help anybody? He said, Gerry, if you help one person, that changes the life of his whole family. And that was a gift for me. And so I sit here talking to you, and whenever I talk, whenever I share, I tell the truth. And that I hope someone can hold on to something. Pray, read, write. When I came to a meeting, they told me, do these 5 things every day for a year, you have to get better. Pray, read, write, call someone, go to a meeting. And it works. So I give that out today. I tell the truth about, I gotta talk to God. I gotta get a relationship with a higher power. I don't care. When we die and we go up to the pearly gates, there's not 7 rows. Okay, you go down that lane. Yeah. You go that lane. You go that lane, that lane, that lane. There's one God. I don't care if it's your God or my God. But that God that I have loves me. And I go to Mass a couple of days a week, and I'm an altar server in the Mass and have this relationship with a Holy Spirit. And I feel the freedom and the love. And I have this guilt about what I did with women. And I found out that we all go through what we have to go through to get to the next place, to not have to go through it. But I still have this, like when I'm walking down the road, I see someone looks like somebody, I remember something, I feel bad. And I talked to a priest about it. And he said, Gerry, what you need to do is you need to ask God to help you forgive me. Help God help me forgive me. And I prayed on that. And I've been released of it, not 100%, maybe 90%. And that I help people. I do service. I show up in AA, outside of AA. I all my life when I was a kid, one time I got to go to a friend's house and they had cake and cookies and milk and soda. I thought, wow, you can have that here? And I've been paying that back. Almost every week I go to the orphanage, I bring them hot chocolate, I bring them Dunkin' Donuts, I bring them something. I take them out to chicken, Kentucky Fried Chicken. because I can and because it's the right thing to do. And maybe one of those kids will help somebody in his life. That's the story for me, right? And I love my life today. I love my family. You know, my wife told me a couple weeks ago, she said the best part of her day is when we go to bed at nighttime. And you know what? I thought about it and I told her, you know, that's my best part of my day. And I'm intimate with my friends. We have children. I have 3 children. And my daughter struggled getting out of college. And, you know, the kids today, they're on that damn phone, you know, and they're till 2 or 3 in the morning. And we had to help her learn to go apply for jobs, to make a resume. She got a great job. My son is an engineer, and he went to his boss, said to him, what kind of a raise do you want? So he thought about it, went to his boss, and he tells his boss, I need an engineer brain. He tells his boss, I need a 31% raise. Where did you come out with 31%, right? I don't have no idea. That's not my brain. So a couple of days later, that guy comes back and says, Jackson, you got a 31% raise. He said, you're the future of our company. And that's, you know, courage and self-esteem that my wife and I can give those kids today. And I cannot do it if I'm not in the program. I cannot do it if I'm not clean. If I have a problem, I talk to my sponsor. I read about it. I get thorough because that's my responsibility. And everywhere I go is to free those people up from something, to feel love about themselves, joy, freedom, you know, and you don't have to fight. You don't have to shoot people. That's the gift. I had a kid, he was arrested, 2 gun charges. He's 12 years old. I mean, that's what, you know, you go, I went to Maine, you go to New York, you go to Chicago, they're walking around like zombies on methadone, drugs, heroin, whatever they call it. That's where the world is today. I got to do my part, and so do you. But you can't do your part, and I can't do my part unless I'm working my program. So that God says, okay, hey, Cooney, here you go, take this guy. Hey, Cooney, sometimes I get off the phone and I'm talking to somebody and I say, where did that come from? How did I say that? That's the gift of God. Like I said, there's no 7 gods. And maybe there is. But whatever it is I'm with your God. Learn about him. You know, let me just hold on 1 second. So I'm reading this book today. It's called Divine Therapy, right? It's Divine Therapy, and it's about addiction, and it's centering prayer and the 12 steps. It's by Thomas Keating. It's one of the best books I've ever read. And we don't got to read it alone. When I read with a few people, I get more out of the readings. Because we talk about it. We feel more calm. Yeah, I'm in the right place. But you have to do it. And also, guys, you got to smile too. I hate to tell you that. You know what it takes to smile? 117 muscles. It's like working out. See? It's like working out. Come on, listen. It's not easy. Here's a story. The guy's in the boat with God. And God was steering. And the guy was rowing, and God was steering. And the guy was rowing, and the guy got tired. He said, hey, God, can I steer? He said, yes, my son, you can, but I don't row. I don't row. So we have to do the work. And if you're at a meeting where you're not getting anything, get out of that meeting. We have to stretch out. You see the guy in the corner that's saying things like you can't believe? Go talk to her or him. Find out where he's coming from. Get in that lane. It's too easy to sit here and make believe. And your children, your boyfriends, your girlfriends, your relationships, life needs you. Needs you. You got to show up. That's what I try and do every day of my life. That's my gift today. I want to be that guy that's in my lane. And God says, yeah, come on, son, come with me. And I promise you, I mean, I feel like, I talk this way. I talk about recovery. I talk about life and joy and freedom and love. And I feel like I hope somebody gets this. Something I say. To read a book, Drop the Rock, the Ripple. There's thousands of books here for us. Bill Wilson's story, the books, the stories in how Al-Anon works. It doesn't look like anybody's got codependency here, right? I do. I want to fix everybody. You know who I fixed? Me. I didn't fix nobody. I have 5 brothers and sisters I had to walk away from. I have friends that can't be in relationships, so they go visit hookers. They're unavailable. I say, read some books. Stop doing what you're doing. Grow up. Thank you for listening to me, Chad. I really love being with you guys.